Level 1. The page. You are 31 years old, and you are 2 months behind on your car payment and 1 bad week from being behind on everything else. You have a job. You just have the kind of job where the math stops working if anything goes wrong, and something always goes wrong eventually. Your neighbor's house burns down on a Thursday night. You watch it from the sidewalk with 20 other people, fire trucks blocking the street, her standing in a bathrobe holding her cat. By Friday morning, you've set up a GoFundMe. Her story, her photos, your name as organizer because you're the one who offered and nobody else stepped forward. The donations start within an hour of posting. People share it. Friends of friends share it. A local Facebook group picks it up. By the end of the first day, you've raised $2,000, and by the end of the week, you've raised $8,400. You watch the number update in real time, and it feels like doing something useful, which is its own kind of reward. You transfer $5,200 to her account. She cries when she calls to thank you. She posts publicly about what a good neighbor you are. The donors see the post and feel good about themselves. The whole thing works exactly the way it's supposed to work, except for one thing. The remaining $3,200 is still in the organizer account. You tell yourself you'll transfer it when you sort out the fees, the time you put in, the follow-up. You tell yourself this for 2 weeks. Then you pay a bill with it. Then another. You tell yourself it was a reasonable expense. 2 months later, a family 2 towns over loses everything in a flood. You read about it in the local news. You open a new browser tab before you finish the article. The second page raises $4,600 in 9 days. You send the family $1,800. You keep the rest. You don't pause before deciding. You barely think about it as a decision at all. The money moves through the organizer account the same way it did the first time. The families receive something. The donors feel good. The shape of it is identical. Only the ratio has changed. By the third page, you have a system. You find the story first. Local news, community Facebook groups, anything recent enough that people are still searching for ways to help. You set up the page the same day, always within 24 hours of the incident, because the first 24 hours are when donors are most urgent and least questioning. You write the description carefully. Specific details make people trust it. A specific dollar amount needed for a specific thing, first month's rent, replacing a specific appliance, a specific medical bill, converts better than a general appeal. The third page raises $6,000. You send the family $2,200. You keep $3,800. You don't feel bad about $3,800. You've started to think of it as a margin. You put real effort into these pages. That effort is worth something. You run 5 more pages over the following 4 months. Your payout rate varies. Some families get 40%. Some get less. One gets 60 because they know someone who follows the page closely and you don't want questions. You learn to read the situation. By the 8th page, you have raised just over $40,000 across all campaigns. You have disbursed roughly $16,000. The gap between those two numbers is yours. Nobody is looking at it. The donors see the total raised and feel good. The families receive something and feel grateful. You are the only person with visibility into both sides of the transaction, and you have learned that most people only look at the number they're given. You are sitting at your kitchen table one evening looking at a news alert on your phone. A warehouse fire, 2 families displaced, community fundraiser already being organized by someone else. And you think about what it would look like to do this properly. Not pages. Something permanent. Something that runs whether you're watching it or not. You open your laptop. You start searching for how to register a nonprofit. Level 2. The nonprofit. It costs $275 in filing fees and takes 11 days. That's it. That's the distance between running GoFundMe pages out of your apartment and being the registered director of a federally recognized charitable organization. You name it something with 2 words, one that implies relief, one that implies community. You build a website over a weekend using a template you find for $40. Stock photos of volunteers. A mission statement you write in 20 minutes. A donation button that routes directly to your organization's account. The IRS allows nonprofits to pay their employees reasonable compensation. You are the only employee. You decide what reasonable means. The first salary you pay yourself is $48,000 a year. It comes out of donations. This is legal. You file the paperwork correctly, and it stays legal. The Facebook ads change everything. You set up a campaign targeting people aged 35 to 65 who have shown interest in local news, disaster relief, and community giving. The ads run within 48 hours of any major regional incident. A tornado, a factory fire, a bridge collapse. You are not the first person to think of this. You are simply more organized about it than most. The ads say the right things. Specific images. A progress bar that looks nearly full because donors give more when they think they're completing something. By the third month, you've spent $4,000 on ads and generated $61,000 in donations. The math on that is very good. 73% of donations cover operational expenses, administrative overhead, outreach infrastructure, program development costs described across 4 pages of your annual report, produced on a Sunday afternoon. 27% reaches any external costs. This is disclosed in your filings. It is legal to disclose something without making it visible, which is different from hiding it. You hire a part-time bookkeeper named Carol 8 months in. She processes the invoices you provide her. You give her everything she needs to do her job and nothing she doesn't. She has no reason to look beyond what you show her and no mechanism to do so if she wanted to. In the second year, a journalist contacts you. Her name is Drea. She works for a regional outlet, writing about post-disaster charitable giving. She has your organization's name from a list of nonprofits that ran Facebook ads following a flood event 3 months earlier. She asks about your disbursement rate. You tell her about operational costs, about the overhead required to reach donors at scale, about the long-term infrastructure you're building. You use words like sustainability and capacity building. She takes notes. You can hear the pen. She asks if she can see your Form 990. You tell her it's publicly available and you'll send her the link. You send her the link. She goes quiet for a week. Then she calls back and asks one more question: whether any of the relief organizations you list as recipients can verify receiving funds. You give her 2 names. Both of them can. You selected those 2 specifically for this possibility. The other organizations on your list have received nothing. She doesn't run a story. You keep her number. You write her name in a notebook beside a single word: manageable. You are at $41,000 in personal salary across the 2 years when the tornado hits the Gulf Coast on a Wednesday evening. You have your ads running by Thursday morning. $11,000 in donations arrives before the weekend. You are at your desk on a Friday afternoon watching the total climb when you realize the operation has reached a size that a single natural disaster can move meaningfully in 48 hours. You start thinking about what happens when the disaster is larger. A hurricane. A flood that covers 3 states. Something that makes national news and keeps making it for a week. The kind of event where 100 organizations are raising money simultaneously and nobody is checking where any of it goes because the scale of the emergency makes scrutiny feel small. You start thinking about what you would need to be ready for that. You think about staffing, about Carol, about whether the structure you have built could process $100,000 in a single week. You think about it carefully, the way you have learned to think about everything, before anyone else starts asking the same questions. Level 3. The disaster. The hurricane makes landfall on a Tuesday evening. By Wednesday morning, you have ads running across 4 states. By Thursday, you have a press release sent to 14 regional news outlets describing your organization's deployment to the affected area. By Friday, your donation counter is at $340,000 and climbing every time you refresh the page. You are ready this time. Carol has full-time hours now. The website has a live donation ticker. You have a bank account structured specifically for disaster response intake, separate from the operational account, designed to look like best practice because it is best practice. The appearance of good process and good process itself have become difficult to distinguish from each other, which is useful. The hurricane does not stop being news after a week. It makes national news. It stays there. Your Facebook ads have a 3% click-through rate, and you have the budget to scale them. You spend $40,000 on ads over 11 days. You raise $2.1 million. An elementary school in the affected region holds a bake sale over 3 Saturdays. The children sell cookies and cupcakes and brownies in quarters and dollar bills at folding tables in the school gymnasium. The principal sends a school-wide email. Parents share the flyer. They raise $4,200. Their teacher wires it to your organization on a Monday morning with a note explaining that the students held a vote and decided they wanted to help the families who lost their homes. A church takes a collection. A regional corporation matches employee donations up to $50,000. Dozens of individuals wire amounts between $200 and $5,000 apiece. The money arrives from people in different states who have never heard of your organization and will never think of it again. The only thing they have in common is that they trust it is going somewhere. You disburse $340,000 to disaster relief organizations working on the ground. You select 4 of them. Each one is real. Each one receives a wire transfer. Each one can confirm it if asked. You make sure they can confirm it if asked before you select them. The remaining $1.76 million covers operational expenses, an expanded administrative team, advertising infrastructure, program development for future deployments, a salary adjustment to reflect the increased demands of the role. Carol processes the invoices. She is efficient. She is thorough. She does not have access to the disbursement decisions and has no reason to ask about them. Drea calls 2 weeks after the campaign closes. She is writing a follow-up piece on post-disaster giving. She mentions your organization by name. She asks if she'd be willing to come in and see the operation. You tell her you'd welcome that. You say it without hesitating. She comes on a Thursday afternoon. You show her the office. You show her Carol's desk, the filing systems, the donor database, the quarterly reports stacked in a binder on the shelf. You tell her about the 4 organizations you funded, the total amount disbursed, the infrastructure required to reach donors at national scale. You use phrases like accountability architecture. She writes all of it down. She asks about the ratio. You show her the pie chart, the one that discloses 73% operational, 27% disbursed, and you explain that the infrastructure model is designed to generate greater impact per dollar over time, not per campaign. She writes that down too. You offer her coffee. She takes it. The piece runs on a Friday. The headline is favorable. Your organization is described as one of the more transparent operators in the regional nonprofit space. You print it and frame it and hang it on the wall across from Carol's desk. 3 months later, Carol brings you the draft Form 990 for the year. You review it together. The numbers are accurate. The numbers are accurate in the way a window is transparent. You can see through it clearly if you know to look, but most people just see the glass. You sign it. You file it. You add it to the shelf beside the framed piece. You are not thinking about Drea when you do any of this. You wrote her name in a notebook beside a single word 18 months ago, and you have not thought about it since. Level 4. The gap. Drea is not writing about you specifically. She is working on a data piece about post-disaster charitable giving. How much money moves after major weather events, where it goes, how much of it actually reaches the ground. She pulls Form 990 filings for 47 organizations. Yours is one of 47. The Form 990 is public record. It always has been. You filed it correctly every year. The numbers in it are accurate. You were not hiding anything in the filing. You were counting on the filing being one of 47 documents that a journalist would have to read very carefully to understand, and on the reasonable assumption that most journalists don't have the time to read 47 filings very carefully. Drea has the time. It takes her 11 days. She compares total donations received against total disbursements made across 3 years of filings. The gap is $1.76 million. She contacts the relief organizations listed as recipients. 2 of the 4 from the hurricane campaign have never heard of your organization. One of the 2 you selected specifically because they could confirm receiving funds has since updated their records and can no longer locate the transfer in their system. She calls you on a Tuesday. You answer. You tell her the numbers are accurate and the methodology is sound, and you'd be happy to provide documentation. You use the word transparency. You have used it before in this context, and it has worked before in this context. She thanks you. She says she may have a few follow-up questions. You tell her your door is always open. She publishes on Thursday. The state attorney general opens an investigation before the article is 12 hours old. By Friday, the FBI is involved because the wire transfers cross state lines. The elementary school wired $4,200 from a state other than yours. The church collection was deposited and forwarded across a state line. The corporate matching funds were processed through a third state entirely. Every transaction that felt like generosity is now a count of federal wire fraud. Carol cooperates fully. She answers every question they ask her without hesitation. She shows them everything she processed, every invoice you gave her, every payment she made. She processed what you gave her and nothing else. The gap between what she processed and what the organization actually received is not in her records because you never gave it to her to process. She had access to everything she needed and nothing she didn't. She is not charged with anything. She was very good at her job. That was the point. The framed newspaper article is still on the wall when they arrest you. You are at your desk on a Wednesday morning reviewing the next campaign. An AG investigator and 2 FBI agents walk in. You do not run. There is nowhere to run to. The operation that made running unnecessary also made running impossible. The bank accounts, the salary records, the Form 990 filings, the framed article on the wall. All of it is evidence. All of it is yours. The trial takes 4 months. The elementary school's $4,200 is cited in the indictment. The teacher testifies. She explains that the students held a vote. The prosecutor reads the vote aloud in court, and the room goes quiet for a moment before continuing. You serve 3 years. When you come out, the only organization willing to look at a fraud conviction tied to a federal charity case is, as it happens, a nonprofit watchdog that monitors charitable giving after major disasters. They need someone who knows exactly how the fraud works, because they cannot hire enough analysts who can read a Form 990 the way you can. You review filings now. You look at the gap between what organizations raise and what they disperse, and you write reports about what the numbers suggest. You flag the ones that look like yours. You know exactly what to look for because you built it. You are good at this. You have always been good at this. You were good at it on the other side of the desk, too. The donation page always told donors where their money was going. Nobody read past the total.